Hey guys, you're here with Insight Fantasy Sports. It's Hammer and Matrix here, and we're doing these shorts. And today is talking about the Adelaide 36ers. Uh, what do you think about Adelaide, mate? First impressions.
Well, starting in alphabetical order is always a good way to go. Adelaide, it's intriguing this one. Schedule, we'll get to in a minute, it's not the best, but there are some players and a lot of things to like about this. What are you seeing?
Look, when we're having a look at the news, I'm really worried about Supercoach hero Scott Ninnis being fired. He was he would go 6 or 7 deep at times, which made me target Adelaide 36ers last year and led to us going quite well. We've got Mike Wells in. What do you think about that, mate?
Yeah, look, you're right. Ninnis turned Adelaide around for us. We spent the first half of the season last year on the pod saying we will not touch this dumpster fire. But yeah, he shortened up the rotation, which is always good for Supercoach. I want to see some things about this Mike Wells guy. He comes with NBA experience. Uh, Really interested to see throughout the preseason what style of play he implements, uh, who his rotations are. 'Cause we've seen this team under a couple of different coaches, and there's been some very different lineups over the time.
Yeah, I know you've done up an article on our Patreon, and you can talk
Yeah.
over this, mate, about how NBA coaches and the pacing and spacing go with NBA coaches coming across. Are you expecting this to be less Supercoach relevant with Mike Wells in?
Well, if it follows the trend we've seen over the last few years, mostly with Sydney Kings coaches, we're talking Chase Buford, Will Weaver before him, and the latest iteration in Mahmoud Abdel Fattah. They wanted to push the ball, spacing, get up a lot of threes, and this is a lot of possessions. They're not running the shot clock down. So if this is the sort of trend we're seeing with these American coaches, I'd expect Adelaide to be up and down, high tempo, a lot of possessions, which means a lot of super coach stats. The caveat to that is we want a short rotation, so we're not diluting those stats between 12 guys, which I think we'll get in Adelaide. They're not deep.
Yeah, look, I'm excited about that, and I suppose that leads to the relevant ins. Kendrick Davis.
Mm.
I would say an absolute top tier G League player coming to Australia. His stats should translate to Supercoach points, and we will be talking about him a bit later on in the top picks. We've got Lap May and we've got Jarrell Martin as sort of those big name guys coming to Adelaide, and yeah, hopefully leading them to glory.
Yeah, a lot of roster shift. They've lost some of their key guys, and Trey Kell, Jacob Wiley's no longer there. So there's definitely opportunity, and how these pieces fit together, and hopefully that reveals itself in the preseason is going to go a long way to seeing where we slot these guys into our Supercoach squads throughout the season.
Mate, when it comes to strength and schedule, that is why we're
Mm.
doing this. And when it comes to NBL Supercoach, we're going to be targeting these doubles. How do you see Adelaide panning out? And yeah, relevant early, but yeah, we're going to have to make some plans to not have too many come round 5 and 6.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to mention this little graphic you've done up. This is my screensaver on my iPad and my phone. It's an absolute uh, Bible that I reference daily. But yeah, 36s, mate. Round one's sort of uh, it doesn't count. Everyone's on the single. So if we're looking round two on the single, 3 and 4 is when the doubles come in. So back to back doubles, uh, they're not all that common this year. So we need to really target them. And round five, following on from that double, there's only two teams that we have on the double there. So I really think we can hold some of these key guys through rounds 3 and 4. But after that, that schedule gets sparse. Rounds 5 through to 12, we're on single after single after single. So
Yeah.
look, load up early, uh, but you really need to be looking to get out by round six at least.
Yeah, we don't have to worry too much about saving trades, I suppose, in NBL, but you do have to, make sure that you've got enough to get these guys out. And you want to be getting guys, especially early on the season with these draw, that are going to go up in cash. When we start to look at our top picks, you have picked Kendrick Davis at 277K, mate.
Mm.
Um, I know in some of the articles that you've done on Patreon and in Twitter, you've chatted about how G League stats translate to NBL stats. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, I started doing a little research for this article, trying to prove the exact opposite that G League guys won't translate. And what I've found is that typically they're coming almost on par. So if we look back at, and you go back to Twitter, you can look at some of the guys we've done it for. We've done it for Jack White. We've done it for uh, that Jimmer Fredette guy who didn't really pan out that came across the other year to Adelaide. Cam Oliver, Jalen Adams almost compared identically. This guy's been tearing up the G League, right? Kendrick Davis. He's averaging touch over 18 points and almost 9 assists a game. Now, assists are worth a couple in this format of the game. And if you start to extrapolate that into Supercoach points, we're looking at a very, very healthy average. And I think he's got the team. If you've got shooters around you like DJ 3J, you've got Jarrell Martin who can step out, Big Ice can roll to the hoop and finish. I feel like he can keep those numbers, and I'm pretty excited. There's also not a lot of backup depth at point guard, so he's going to play.
Yeah, and like if we're talking 30 to 40 Supercoach points a night, we're talking around 3 and 4 doubles, and that's when they start to go up in price. That's
Mm.
80 points you can get in a round. That's captain material.
Absolutely. And the other part that you can probably touch on with your strategy is we don't get a price rise until after they've played 3 games.
Yeah, so you go round 1 and 2. So if you do miss out on one of these Adelaide guys, you can actually trade them in round 3. So yeah, and then take advantage of the doubles. I don't like forward banking trades because somebody like and I don't want to talk out of turn, but somebody like a Latmayan or somebody like a Rocco Zakarski could actually find themselves getting 30 points a game, and you really need to get those guys for that cash
Yep.
grab. But Kendrick Davis is somebody that if I don't start with him, I know that I can add him round 3, get some points, and yeah, I suppose get some cash as well.
Yeah. So he's at that new import price of 277,000. But there's another guy that you've got your eye on who's we've seen the league before.
Yeah, and I've nearly talked myself out of him. I'm a huge Memphis Grizzlies fan as a bit of background, and I had watched Jarrell Martin for years. I started looking a bit more into it, and he hasn't played for eight months since
Mm.
rupturing his patella tendon. But I'm really intrigued to see the fit beside Hump, and I think, and this is actually leads into what I need to see from preseason as well. If I can see him play the backup center as well as the starting power forward, and I suppose really improve on those minutes, I think that it'll be a massive bump to the Supercoach scores. I do think he will fit beside Kendrick Davis and DJ 3J, especially with that improved passing we've seen in the last year or so. So Jarrell Martin, while not going to be in my initial team, is a target for round 3.
Yeah, look, I like the look of Jarrell. I think as a team fit, Supercoach's side, I really like it. And I do think he will slide up to the centre because they are awfully thin in the big man department, which is a real green flag for both him and Ice Humphries. I think it's only Ben Gristy who's been given a contract. He screams development player to me. I don't think he'll play a lot as the backup. But see, Jarrell Martin, he takes a lot of guys off the dribble, which takes away from assists for other people. You know, he's not that lob threat. I don't think he could jump over a New York telephone book. But look, definitely been on my radar. Schedule may or may not allow it because there's some other guys. But great news. Forward center eligible, which is really important to have those dual positions, isn't it?
Yeah, and 100% would not take him if he was just center eligible, but really like him at the forward. Mate, we're going to head into our cash cows, but just before that, the show's brought to us by the Standard Squeeze. You can use promo code IFS15 to get 15% off your order. Father's Day's coming up shortly, and I have the whole range in there over my left shoulder. The guys know I like to drink and do like to hook a brother up. But the 4-in-1s keep your coffee hot and your beers cold. And of course, yeah, to stop yourself breaking glass bottles, you have the whole Standard Squeeze range there. Cash cows wise,
Mm.
I'm really excited to see who takes that small forward spot. I
Mhm.
personally think it's going to be Latmayan at 133k. I think with his shooting, with his height, I think that he is the best fit beside in my opinion, the other four starters in DJ, 3J, Kendrick Davis, Jarrell Martin, and Hump. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree. I think the length, the athleticism is going to fit well in that starting lineup, and he's come across to Adelaide from Cairns looking for greener pastures and some opportunity. He showed in flashes last year that he can score, he can block shots, he can contribute across the board. But this is something I want to keep my eye on throughout pre-season because there's another guy that we've been talking about in Adelaide for a couple of years. He goes by the name of Nick Marshall. This guy blew up when they took over that squad to the US last year and played was it G League Ignite when Alex Sarr was running around. Uh, yeah, man, this guy is going to vie for that three spot with Lat Mayen, and I've got a I've got a feeling that this new coach comes in without any preconceived ideas of the two of them, and he's just going to throw it out there and say, "Get after it, guys." And I think that spot's pretty wide open, up for grabs at the moment. So, in terms of cash cow, Lat Mayen at 133,000, Nick Marshall 105,000. Whoever gets that starting nod is going to be that cash cow for Adelaide.
You mentioned off air that you might expect Sunday Deck to take it as well. Our cash cow segment is basically whoever takes that starting spot.
Yeah.
Is there a world where Sunday Deck's there?
Uh, I wouldn't imagine so, but his name's definitely getting floated around on some of the depth charts that we're seeing. I know Pete Hooley's mentioned it online. Uh, this is what preseason's for. This is part of our watch list, and this is a cash cow that will sort of come into a clearer picture throughout the blitz.
Mate, we're trying to keep these nice and short, and we do have a segment called Red Flag or Fool's Gold. Um, Honestly, I think that it's anybody we haven't mentioned today. I wanted
Mm.
to throw Jason Kadee out there for new members who might have watched an Australian game from 2020 and seen this guy reach those heights. He's been a 120K or a cheap, lower performing Supercoach player for a couple years now. Honestly, if we have not mentioned their name in Adelaide, they should not be in your Supercoach team.
Agreed. What I really like about Adelaide is that the lack of depth is there, which is great for Supercoach. They're going to have to rely heavy minutes on their starters. I know put in that article on Patreon that DJ 3J last year was in the top 5 or 6 per minutes per game. Uh, I don't expect any changes here. So very thin bench. Stay away.
Mate, we have the shot clock here at 15 minutes and we are at 12 and a half. Mate, is there anything you want to see from Adelaide outside of these guys, or is it just focusing on starters, trading them out in round 6, maybe round 7 if there's some money to be made? But if you do miss an absolute star, we can rectify that in round 3.
Yeah. Plenty of opportunities to rectify in round 3. You've got your boosts. Keep an eye on the preseason. I know Adelaide cancelled both their games against my Jack Jumpers, so we're not going to see them there. But we've still got the blitz, and just make sure that what we're predicting is what's going to eventuate, and you should be pretty sweet with all this advice.
I'm Matrix. This is Hammer. You have listened to an Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. Cheerio.